our first thing is we're going to go around the room quickly and do introductions with our names and our hub or neighborhood. So I'll start, Gabrielle Gerhard, and I'm involved with the Windermere North Sandpoint Hub. And I'm going to ask Dave to go next.
Hi, Dave Wilma, Seattle ACS. I live in the Lincoln Springs neighborhood, but my remit is all over the city.
Jim Durand, Finney Hub, and we serve the Finney Greenwood area.
And I'm Susan, and we serve Bradner Gardens in Mount Baker.
This is Bill Fay. I'm with the Queen Anne Hub.
Erica Harnett. I'm with the Highland Park Improvement Center Hub in West Seattle.
And I'm Cindy Barker. I'm with the Morgan Junction Hub in West Seattle.
Hi, I'm Susie Hammond, and I'm with the North Capitol Hill Hub.
I'm Jody Grage. I'm with the Ballard Commons Hub.
I'm Matt Blank, the Ravenna Eckstein Hub.
Frank Gall, West Magnolia Hub.
Catherine Keller, Hummer Harris Hub. It's near just south of 23rd and Madison.
Yeah, Hugh Kelso, and with the Kirka Park Hub in Whittier Heights.
Hi, this is Ann Bond with Eastlake Group in Seattle.
And Forest Victory Heights Hub.
Pat from Broadview. Great, thank you. All right, so the next item, Anne, was nuts and bolts.
Yes. This is going to be quick. Somebody suggested that we do some of the basics about hub captain work, hub work. So really quick, just some talking points that I have found very helpful when talking to folks about the hub. The mission of the hub, I always tell them we have 4 of them. Gather and share information, match haves and needs, organize volunteers, and educate. So we're kind of have 4 missions now. The other thing I try and make sure I hit, and it doesn't always come up naturally in conversations, so I make sure that at the end of a drill or something like that, I cover a few points that may not naturally float to the surface. You know, I'll get done talking about hubs and somebody will go, well, when do I stand up? So I try and make sure that people know we stand up when communications are down. It's a very easy way to remember it. Be wary of accepting donations. We do not want people dropping off food and blankets and coats or whatever at the hub area, because you don't want to have to worry about that overnight. We don't operate after dark. We don't have that kind of battery power. And always keep in mind the one-to-many issue, the carton of diapers that we don't want to give to one family. We want to spread it out amongst a couple families, or the one volunteer that has multiple skills that we might need. How do we keep track of those one-to-many issues? So that's it for what do we call it? Nuts and bolts.
And this came about because Louise Luthi really enjoyed one of the sessions that we had where we were going around and people were describing things that they were doing. You know, it was a deep dive night, and she said, can we also, rather than just, you know, save this for big special deep dive sessions, if somebody's got something really cool they've developed, share it, you know, rather than waiting for around the room. Let's just put a thing on the agenda that's nuts and bolts that we think all other hub captains should know about. So as Ann and I travel all you guys' different events, we might go, that's a nuts and bolts thing. Make sure you cover that.
Okay, and you're next. GoFundMe discussion.
Okay. I don't have a lot to say about this, but I'll tell you what I've got. So a couple of hub captains are interested in raising funds for their individual hubs to buy new gear for their hub or outfit it differently or whatever. So couple different options. The GoFundMe is the one we've done before, so you're sort of familiar with it. And I was looking around to see if there's another one. So Square does very similar things to the GoFundMe. It actually has some capabilities that I think we ought to explore that GoFundMe does not have. And then there may be something else out there I don't even know about. So this is a little busy, but to run a GoFundMe campaign, they're going to charge. It's going to cost. So they're going to take 2.9% plus 30 cents out of every donation. Square does the same amount. They pull out just as much money. So a $10 donation, you actually only get $9.41. GoFundMe does not take PayPal, which I think is kind of an issue. So I don't want to talk much more about this. What I'd like to do is just say that one of the things I thought about when looking into this was one of our issues for individual hub captains is a checking account. Getting money, there's a couple different ways to ask for money, but what do you do with that money once you have it? I think the concern has always been, I don't want to mix that money in with my individual checking account. How do I keep it separate? It's very hard to open a checking account for an organization. At least I've found it hard. Maybe I'm not going to the right banks, but Square. So GoFundMe, you can only open a GoFundMe account if you have a checking account to link it to. You have to, they don't hold your money for you. Square will hold your money for you. They will hold it there in kind of a debit account. And then you can, so if one of your hub volunteers went out and bought a canopy or something like that and wanted to be reimbursed, you can link their checking account to your Square page, send them the money, and then unlink them. And you can do that to multiple different people. So you're not tying your checking account with this Square account. The other thing I thought was really interesting in Square is that because it's not only available to individuals, but it's available to businesses too. And if your business has multiple locations like you guys, you can tag that money as this money came from the Finney location. This money came from the Homer Harris location. So it all goes into the same pot, but I think there's a way to keep it separate. So again, it all goes into that same Square account, and then you pull it out piece by piece by linking someone's checking account temporarily. So my proposal is that somebody gets a couple people that are interested in this, get on a Zoom call with me, and we actually create an account and see if this will do what we think it will do. You can, and I didn't go too far into this, but it's got a really pretty page on a mobile phone that opens up and you can donate. You can either hook or wirelessly hook a device to your phone or your iPad, and you can collect donations on site, which with the GoFundMe campaign we did, my opinion, it's very difficult to explain what hubs are to people that don't know anything about them. They are hard to describe. So creating a movement of people that have no idea what you're doing, it's very difficult to get that across to them. So I think our best bet is to actually ask for donations when we have people in front of us.
Okay, but Anne, so are you crossing? And then Erica's has her hand up.
I saw,
lost. Are you talking to the individual hub captains that want to do it for their individual hubs, or have you moved over and are talking the network? I thought you were just doing the individual hubs.
Yeah, this is for the individual hubs.
Okay.
When we did it for the network, I think it's difficult to describe what hubs do in without making it, a page and a half, because it's not an easy concept to get across. So I think individual hub captains are going to have that same problem. Getting across the message of the hub is difficult. So in-person donations seem to be easier.
Okay. Erica,
I'm probably not clear about that at all. Go ahead, Erica.
Yeah, did you look into Venmo at all for this? Because the one thing is, yes, it's technically not a bank, but you don't need a device. So the Square, you do need some little device that you can hook into your phone to read credit cards. Venmo is nice that you don't have to have a secondary device. And one of the things I have found when you were talking about the banking aspect is if you have that for that specific Venmo account, you can actually get a debit card that allows you to then, if you've got balances, to spend it on things at physical stores. So that's why I'm just curious if you looked into Venmo at all for that aspect.
Yeah, I did think about it. I don't know how much of a website Venmo lets you create, like a donation website. The other thing is, I know people that don't have Venmo accounts, so it's not as universal. Square is not, there's not such a thing as a Square app or whatever. Like it takes Visa, it takes MasterCard, so it seemed a little more universal. That's my thinking, but I'm happy to look at Venmo more.
Matt has his hand up.
Yeah, Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, on that subject, Square actually owns Cash App, which is similar to Venmo. It has its own money storage. You can send and receive Bitcoin through it, and you can use it with a debit card as well. as well. So something else to think about. I prefer the interface over Venmo. I think Venmo looks kind of dated. Venmo is actually attached to PayPal. I don't know how separate some of these services are, but I do know when I'm sending money or receiving money from friends for for buying stuff or going out somewhere, it's Cash App is usually the fastest way to get stuff, and you can keep money in there. Like I said, you can spend it on a debit card or you can reimburse somebody through that.
Yeah, Square gives you a debit card. Yeah, and I don't want to solve the problem here. I just would like to get a couple people together to figure out how to do this smartly, and present something a little more formal to the hubs. Jody, you have your hand up.
Yes, I have two things. One is that if we don't have a half-page handout or something of what a hub does, I think one of the first things we should do is get one. And I would volunteer to write that if no one else wants to do it. But it seems like that would be an appropriate thing to have for an awful lot of reasons, including this. The second thing is, having worked in some organizations with considerable amounts of money, I think it's very important to institute an authorization to spend policy. You don't want people buying things that they think a hub should want without approval, and they will expect to get reimbursed whether or not the hub as a whole thinks it's a good idea. So I also have some authorization to spend forms that I could send you. But I think those two things are important pieces of paperwork that would be useful long-term as well as immediately.
Real quick, Jody, we do have a brochure. It does a good job of explaining. I don't think I just think it's a really tough message to get across quickly. That's my opinion. And then the authorization, I hadn't really thought about that. That's your 3 or 4 hub volunteers working together. I don't know that somebody that is not intimately involved in the hub would expect to buy stuff and get reimbursed.
Well, it should be pointed out that this ain't going to happen before someone spends money and expects to get reimbursed. But I also think that if we've got that, having something that does what you need to do for these, as far as explanations, would stand us in good stead for other reasons too.
Sure. And we wrote it for the GoFundMe campaign we did for the network. I'd be happy to send that over. You could take a look at it, and if anybody else wants to take a stab at it, maybe it's just me that's struggles to communicate quickly the concept of the hub. Catherine, you got your hand up?
Sure, I have a couple points or questions. The first is, I believe our plan was to make a wish list, agree amongst the hub core what the wish list is. I get some pricing ideas, and then we send an email out to our whole network locally. I mean, we have a long email. I mean, we have a good, healthy email list, and people were saying to me when we did our little exercise, yeah, I'm good for donating for a tent. Someone actually said that. So we would do most of that work in an email to do fundraising with some follow-up presumably. And I think we made our list at our exercise, so that's very good. I'm interested in a function that allows phone, regular web access, because I don't use my phone for anything but phone calls, sorry, and photographs, I just won't, and a little bit of WhatsApp. I'm very limited on what I use my cell phone for. And also, if it could be something that's owned by the hubs, which is a nonprofit as a network organization, and you can tag donations to specific hubs.
No.
Catherine, we're not a nonprofit.
Oh, crap.
So
we all have
this
to work around-
wait. This conversation was just about individual hubs. I'm going to do the hub network next.
Okay.
Yeah. And Catherine, your system sounds great. Somebody had asked about the GoFundMe, if they wanted to do a GoFundMe for their own hub. And let me say one thing about the Amazon wish list. I'm assuming that you're talking about an Amazon wish list. You can create one, and I have suggested to folks that they create one, but if someone buys that item off of your wish list, you are not notified. It does not, it's a very stupid system. And if somebody else can figure out how to do this, let me know. But it's a wish list that you create, but it's not like a wedding registry where as soon as somebody buys it, it comes off your list. So you could have 3 people buying the same thing. That's how Amazon's wish list goes. Susie, do you have something about the Amazon wish list?
Well, related, we wanted to avoid the bank account, the grant writing, et cetera, and we came up with using a registry program called myregistry.com. You can call it up, and then when it gives you the search bar, you just plug in North Capitol Hill Hub. And there is our wish list. The trick with these, they take you to the third-party site. We sent everybody to Amazon. We're still in the testing phase. And my registry cues the purchaser multiple times to go back to my registry and claim the gift that actually was sent. And that's the only way that the organization learns what has been donated. So there is the possibility of duplicates, but there are multiple prompts to take a donor back to my registry and record their donation.
Okay, Susie,
Okay.
we have Susie's had it up for a while, and then if you're ready, you can call on Matt after that.
Okay.
Right. This is just a question about what you're talking about is if the hubs want to raise money outside of the grant writing, neighborhood matching fund process, because my understanding is we have to find an organization that basically manages our money when we make that application. So this doesn't apply. They will do the accounting and the reporting and things like that, right? So this is another revenue stream.
This is separate than the Department of Neighborhood Funding program, the grant program. Yeah.
So maybe after that, if there are subsequent things that hub needs money for. I don't know, has any hub actually launched itself without a neighborhood fund? a matching fund? I'm just curious.
Yeah, the West Seattle ones all stood up with, we didn't write a grant until 3 years in.
Okay.
Of course, we didn't have any equipment.
Yeah.
We were responding
Okay.
with backpacks.
Yeah. Matt, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I wanted to comment on the Amazon wish list, since that's something that I had created for my hub. They do have options as far as where the items get shipped. You can, I think by default, it will keep purchase items and not tell you because it doesn't want to spoil a gift surprise, but you can turn those features off and have it immediately remove. You can also specify the quantity you're looking for. So if you want 2 of something, it'll keep it until they've all been purchased and then remove them from the list.
Excellent. Okay. I just haven't gotten down to that feature. So an Amazon wish list is an option. So I think, because I don't want to spend any more time on this, I think what I'd like to see is, does anyone want to investigate this with me? And we're talking about lots of different options here. An Amazon wish list, my registry, Square. Does anybody want to get online with me and see if we can, what ones of these will work, or just gather information about these options?
And I'm happy to report on my registry. We're in the testing phase, and we've succeeded in finding a house nearby that will accept deliveries on our behalf. The key is having a promotional campaign to launch along with it so that your neighborhood knows what to do. And that's what we're working on now.
Okay. So I think we can separate this into two different types. The ones where you want people to buy gear, and the ones where you want people to give money so that you can buy gear. So it's money versus things. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands up, but maybe I'll get one a little bit later.
I'd be happy to help you, Ann. This is Ann Bond.
Oh, great. Thanks, Ann. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Anybody else
I don't know a
interested?
whole bunch. My wife is a professional fundraiser. I think I mentioned that before.
Oh.
She might have some ideas about systems and tools that can help.
Fabulous. Okay. Okay. I might hit your you or your wife up, Matt.
Yeah,
Thank
let me
you.
know.
Okay. All right. Gabrielle, I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
Okay, Matt, talking about fundraising just made me think of another option, Donor Box, which is just a web link where you can, Donor Box will accept your donations. They take a fee off of it, but it's a pretty reasonable option. So another option to consider maybe in the future. So I think we're moving on to the next topic, Cindy, expenditure discussion out of network funds.
Yeah, and I don't see Brandy on, so I'm gonna cover a little bit of what she was gonna do. I went down and helped Rainier Beach on Halloween. They had what's called a Boo Fest, and it's all the social service agencies, all the community groups, all the youth, big candy giveaway. But everybody comes with their information tables for adults. And they had spent a considerable amount of money out of their own hub, which is what's the tie here, to put together some really cool things. I mean, they gave away a few things that would go into people's emergency backpacks. And one of the really fun things that they did was this small, Anne, if you could find the picture, I'd appreciate it. I was trying to find it. I don't know where it was. So it's a little backpack or a little baggie, and in it is, Band-Aids. It was a first aid kit. So it's Band-Aids, it's a little thing of ointment, it's some wipes. And then in it, they also put 2 info cards, one for Alert Seattle and one for their local hub with the contact information on the back, which, there's a template, you guys can print that. And, they got everything they needed from the dollar store. It was pretty cheap, but man, let me tell you how appreciative the parents were, because they're all there with kids, and we gave out some Band-Aids because people were getting owies. So that was part of the conversation of how can we raise money to do this for our hubs, because they thought it was a really good giveaway. So I showed it to Ann and I went, we don't have swag that we can give to the hub captains to take to your table. You guys always have to come up with your own stuff. So, you know, if Brandy was on, she'd have been able to tell us how much this was. It was probably 47 cents to build the whole thing. And plus, people walked away with the two really important messages that we do. Alert Seattle, you know, plug into the into the OEM and know where your hub is. Thanks, Ann. So, so there's kind of like, hey, you know, we still have, and Hugh, you can correct me if I'm wrong, $5,777, unless, you know, 3 cents of interest have come in. And the things that we have agreed to spend it on, you know, we're keeping up with keeping the website updated, the plugins updated. And the new costs that I have to talk about tonight are our MailChimp was free and now it's going to cost us. And I'm going to share that screen. Oh dear, where did it go? This is Cindy's crappy do it fast thing. So we currently have on our newsletter that goes out, you know, about 3 or 4 times a year, almost 2,000 people. And that is the limit to the free accounts, 2,000 people. And you can see how they're divided up. And the bulk of them are 790 people have come to our website and said, please put me on your distribution list. And the other 752, the other big bulk of it, are from us being at events and you guys sending me names, or I collect the rosters of people who said, I'm interested, sign me up for the newsletter. And those have all been hand typed in. And then there's 111 of you guys who are on a pulled aside hub captains distribution list. Just in case I ever had needed to send a MailChimp just to the hub captains. So it's a big chunk of people who follow us and are looking for this kind of a newsletter. So the question is, once we get, you know, 25 more people, we're going to get so that I can't send emails anymore or can't send the newsletter out. So we're going to either have to start cutting people, you know, keep it down under 2,000, or we're going to have to start paying. And currently MailChimp gives you a couple of choices. How many people do you have? And the next step up is 2,500 on your distribution list. And we would have to pay $34 a month. Or we could say, we're going to just expect that we're going to go over that. And we're just going to go straight up to $59 a month. I called today and it turns out that nonprofits can get a 15% discount. We'd have to negotiate with an official nonprofit to let us use them as the nonprofit shield of approval. And if that was true, then we'd get a break and it would be $29 and $51. So I don't think I want to cut people from the list. And we raised the money just for this purpose. We knew we'd have to spend it at some day. I've just been too cheap to do it. And I'd say that we should go ahead and upgrade to the 2,500. And then as we get close to breaking that barrier, then we step up again. There's no point in paying the extra money if we haven't crossed that line yet. So like we kind of had said of how we're going to do, anybody need this on here anymore? Because I'm going to take it down so I can see you all. Like we said, and it comes back to Jody's authorization to spend. We knew we raised the money for this. This is the meeting where I'm going, hey, everybody here, give me the thumbs up, you know, or is there a concern or an issue that we should pause and address?
Cindy, Jody's got her hand up.
Jody, I can't see that yellow hand on that yellow background.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How old are the oldest names?
Pre-website, so before 2015, and they're all West Seattle people that came to the hubs, and most of them I still see in action. So I remove ones that show bounces, you know, so I keep it cleaned up.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm going to put up the participants list. Matt has a good point. I can see that easier if you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
So Cindy, are you asking us for an okay? Is that that's kind of what I think I'm hearing?
Yeah. I gave you the 3 choices, you know, train
Right.
people, but we're still going to come to the ceiling, buy the low cost and upgrade when we need to, or go to the big cost. And I'm doing the middle one.
I personally vote for the middle one. I know I volunteer with a small nonprofit and we were doing a lot of things to save money for a long time. And we finally realized it really makes a difference when you start spending some of that money you have and getting things in order in the right way. So I'm going to vote for that choice and that we keep an eye on it and update it when we're ready.
I'm really looking for anybody who's got a really concern or disagreement. Otherwise, I'm kind of like, yeah, just keep going and move out. Okay. So then the next half of that, so that's good. So we're going to start spending, 25 to 30 bucks a month on that. And that's going to take a while to use $5,000. So the next topic is, let me check the chat here. Okay. So then there's two other things to spend money on. One is that swag idea. And if you guys like that, I will go back to Brandy and go, give me some numbers. Let's see what we can do. Any conversation on that? I will tell you, I belong to 3 other groups where swag consumes half the meeting. And that's generally the government, and they're trying to think of how to bribe people to their tables, and they argue about backpacks and compasses and coffee cups and crap like that. I really don't want to get into a big swag deal. Can we just pick something easy? And if you really want to work on it, we can set up another group. But I'm not going to go buy anything now because it's not outreach time. But we're kind of going to put it on the radar and go, this is where the direction we're heading. And if somebody has a brilliant idea, we'll convene a working committee to go, what's the best thing to do? But can I go ahead and assume that we can spend a little bit on swag and go get these costed out from Randy?
Just one quick question.
I think so.
Does swag include mission statement brochures such as Jody was referring to, or is that a different category of thing?
No, we already will pay for those. I mean,
Okay.
we've got stacks of those printed, the trifold brochures.
Right.
Jody's rewrite, I think, is more to the point of trying to condense it down into a money ask. The
Okay.
brochures that we have are more, what's the hub?
Great.
Now, if we have to do a whole nother run of money ask brochures, if it's for by hub, you might have to do that yourself. Right? You see what I mean? I'm making it up. I don't know.
I think that seems like a good idea if we want to turn it and keep it self-sustaining. You need to keep the visibility out there and let
Right.
new neighbors know.
Right. We generally have been, Anne's been fabulous about mooching off the city grants for our printing costs because that is so expensive. But if Jody, if it's a money ask thing that we're going to put out at the outreach tables and we've all decided we're going to use them, that shouldn't be any.
Okay in there?
I can print those. Hey Frank, go to mute. Okay, thanks. That didn't really answer your question, Susie, right? Like if it's a tailored for your hub will have to print it. If it's a generic, certainly that could be in the hub folder and something we look at.
Great. I'm just so new to all this. I'm not sure, where things are coming from. And
do we look very organized on this stuff? No.
Thank you.
Okay, so then the third element to just put in front of you guys, Ann and I had a really super busy summer last year. I lost track of how many skills fairs we did, but we were running, and neither of us are complaining, but we were running back and forth across the city delivering stuff. And there were times when we were doing a skills fair and somebody else was doing something else, and we were having to coordinate pickups and deliveries. And it occurs to us, especially since I'm still trying to travel, maybe we should consolidate all the crap at Ann's house and all the crap at my house into one storage place where you guys can self-serve. And then that way, when you do a skills fair, you just go pick it all up and it's all compartmentalized and you go, I'm going to do these 5 tables, and you pull them off the shelf and pick up all the tables and tents and you go. So, but that is a horrible cost. And I'm going to share my screen again because we started doing some research going, I wonder what that would be.
Yeah, storage.
Oops, wrong one. Sorry, hang on.
Because it's real estate, and real estate's expensive.
Yeah, I know it. Hang on. Oh, crap. Okay, we're going to just do it this way. Sorry. There we go. Can you see the spreadsheet now?
Yep.
Okay. So I just sat one afternoon and, you know, exactly what Matt said. It's all about the real estate. And so there's some down in the Rainier, and Ann and I are trying to get it centralized so it's not, you don't have to drive to the Antarctic to pick this stuff up. But you know, it's going to be something around 150 to 200 a month. And we're not too sure about that. And we're also not sure how big it has to be because those canopies take up a lot of room. But they're what everybody wants to borrow. So we're going to keep poking away at this and come up with maybe a couple of options and see what you guys think. But I just wanted to put it out now for the, see all this stuff. Oh my God. And just for fun, I went to the most expensive places I could think of, you know, and went, well, what's it like in the Capitol Hill area? And U Village was good, and Roosevelt was my all-time winner, $375 for a 10 by 10. So I'm going to stop complaining about how much I pay for my units.
So convenient for me though.
Hugh?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was just wondering, like we know all about Lake City has one of those cargo bins at their hub. What do those cost? We could just put one at a hub.
The containers,
what a great
containers
idea.
are not terribly
No.
expensive, but yeah, we would need.
You're looking
permission to
at
put it somewhere.
$2,500 a year for a storage place.
Well, and that's part of why we put this up. We're going, well, maybe somebody's got an unused warehouse out there that we don't know about, which has happened. There was somebody in the Lakewood Seward Park who had a warehouse for a while. But Matt, I
My
think,
friend has two 40-foot containers.
and where are they?
Well, if you don't mind driving out to Carnation or Duval.
Not a hope.
Oh,
But Hugh has a good point about Lake City. I wonder if we could squeeze a second one in there. Lake City's a little bit distant, but
Well, I mean, how much would it cost to buy another one of those? That's like a half-sized.
Yeah, that's what I would
container.
find out.
And if that's a year's rent, fine, then we own it and we can just move it from hub to hub.
I'd like to see your flatbed truck. No, that's a great idea. I will get with Susie and Sandy and Susanna and go back over those numbers and find out. That's a great option.
Okay.
Finding the place for it in Seattle might be a little problem. Jody? Oh,
Jody, you're on mute.
You might look at having two of them. So there's one north and one south. So no, I mean, mid-north and mid-south, so that the center of the city is covered too.
The reason we're trying to centralize everything, because right now, to do a skills fair, you have to go both north and south to pick up tents from Cindy and stuff from Ann.
Yes, but what I'm saying is if you had two places, so you could put half in one and half in the other. How many canopies do we have?
No, it's not the canopy question. It's not the canopy question. It's the skills fair gear that goes to each one of those tables. And there's 15 canopies.
You would need two sets of everything to have two locations.
yeah.
Right.
And then this is the place where we'd also keep the central distribution of all the UASI maps, the self-help posters for all the new hubs that come in. Then anybody who's mentoring them goes, okay, it's time to give you your gear for your box. They have just one place to go.
Well, my thought was that it might be cost effective to get a few more things and split them up so that you had it in two places.
Okay, noted. But
over now.
We'll talk with Ann about duplicating the skills fair stuff. Susan?
Yeah.
I just want to say, Cindy, do you remember that at Bradner, there is one of these half containers already? And the reason it's there, it'll be there until they rebuild the burned clubhouse, which may be as soon as next summer, in which case it ought to, maybe I can find out what's going to happen to that container, because it's not too bad of a location, at least, for, between I-5 and 90.
That's a fantastic idea.
Nice. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, other ideas? Okay, Matt put in where he bought it, so that I can go cost those out.
Yeah,
Jody.
you get a quote.
Jody, your hand's back up.
Oh,
Did you have
pardon
something
me.
else?
I thought I took it down. I will do that
Okay.
now.
I got it.
Okay, hang on, I'm writing notes.
I have one last idea too. This is Ann Bond. Those folks at the rowing club here in Eastlake have offered to store some things for us, really specific to how to do the pop-up at the time of a hub. But it's also possible that they might have the kind of room that we might need for the skills fair. And that's a pretty good, fairly central location. So I could certainly inquire if I had a pretty good read on how much room it would need.
Yeah, yes, great idea. Ann and I actually have to kind of start measuring and go, okay, now we're getting serious. What are we really talking about? So good idea. Thank you. So these are some great ideas.
Yeah, if you could pile everything up and just measure it so we have a sense of what size space you
Well,
need.
actually, I can almost do that. It's like one full pickup load of Braun's truck. That was what we did with Bradner, and that was a pretty large skills fair. So I could go and measure the cubic footage of that one. And then that's just skills fair and canopies. And then the other stuff is the other giveaways that are hiding in nooks and crannies in my house.
And mine.
Okay, that was it for that. Thank you guys for the good input. Appreciate it.
So Cindy, have you finished? You had 3 items. Was that the last one?
Yeah, it was the swag and the MailChimp and the storage consolidation.
Right. So Anne, you're going to talk about Department of Neighborhoods grants.
Yes, and I will try and fly through this. This is just a report on this grant that we have. And we asked for this grant in November of 2020. So this has been a 2-year long process. It was $33,000 is what we asked for. The top 7 languages spoken in Seattle, you can see them there. We got hub brochures, the one that we got it translated into 7 languages, and we have copies of that. That's a picture of them. The bottom right is a trifold. The ones that we got translated into language are half sheets, front and back. We also had the urban survival skills information translated into 7+ languages. Our self-help posters, we got translated into 13 languages. So those 5, water, food, sanitation, blah, blah, I can't remember the other 2. Those have been translated. So here's an example. This is the poop one, and this is in Khmer.
And my brain, I need to get that to John Murphy. He was just asking me about it, and I told him we didn't get those translated.
I couldn't think of it. You asked me about it a while back, and you're like, what did you spend all that money on? Well, this was it, the 5 self-help posters. So we made a what is a hub video. It's about 9 minutes. We have it in English and then translated into 7 languages. That was the words on the slide have been translated, and we also paid for voiceover in language. So folks that speak or speak Tagalog, they can listen to it, or they can, and the language on the slides is actually in their native language. Really quick. Oh, you know what? You guys probably can't hear that because I have my headphones in. It was just the video in Tagalog. We wrapped up, there was way more volunteer hours with this, but basically we used 1,000 volunteer hours. Also got us 4 new hub boxes. Those are the locations. We resupplied 2 additional hubs who had their gear stolen, Pinehurst and Sandpoint. And then let's see, we bought some things for our field exercises in the summer of 2021. We got coffee. We hired a videographer who walked around and filmed us as we were doing that exercise. We got lip reading masks, not many. We just bought a couple boxes to try them out. That's what they look like. For the Urban Survival Skills Fair, we got translated. Oh, we did 2 Urban Survival Skills Fair in languages. We got the materials translated. We hired interpreters. Cindy did the one at High Point, and Cindy and I both did the one at Beacon Hill. And then we got our radio communication forms, the ICS 213s. Yeah. So hopefully you can see this. This is something that Cindy got translated. It's in language. I'm not sure honestly what language it is, but it is for a Seattle Housing Authority complex. We actually went there and took pictures of their units and what it looked like outside their facilities, and then translated into their language how to turn off the gas in their buildings, along with management. We worked with management to do this. And then the ICS 213s, which is a radio form, we got 20,000 of them numbered, and splitting the cost and the haul with the auxiliary communication, the ham radio folks. That's it. So that is
I'm gonna
over with.
say,
Thank
if we
God.
were in person, I would have brought champagne in, because Anne did the most absolute hair tearing out work on this. And she's cringing, you know, like being complimented, but I swear to God, nobody else could have done this. So yay for Anne.
I learned
Yay
a
for
great
Anne.
deal.
Yeah.
Here, here.
That first time of doing something is always so painful. And the second time's never as painful, but you never do it a second time. That's always been my experience.
Childbirth. It's like childbirth.
Yeah, yeah.
The one thing about those self-help posters is those are not printed. We ended up spending all the money in translation. The way they the way they divvy it up and allocate it, we didn't have anything
Yeah.
left for printing. So eventually Cindy's going to turn on her 11 by 17 and start cranking out some for the hubs that really want them. So Anne, sorry, back to you.
That's it for the grant. It's done. It may be a minute or two before I do another one because they're painful.
Well, this is so spectacular, and those materials would be lovely, sort of more if they're front and center on our website somehow.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this all compiled like this. So Anne, yeah, do send me those PowerPoints, would you?
It would be so
Okay, yeah.
spectacular. Get someone to go to your website and you go in language, and you got all that great stuff.
Right. And this is the stuff that I'll be, I'm planning on sending a newsletter out after Thanksgiving. And so this is the stuff that goes in the newsletter as well.
Do we want to make those forms publicly downloadable so anybody can print them at home?
Yeah.
They can't because they're numbered.
Not the
You're
radio,
not, he's not talking about the ICS
Not all of them
213s.
are, but
the posters and all that.
yeah, I mean, any publications that we've
Yeah.
created.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
It's- literally, we are just in front of you guys, you know, that we've got the folder set up for all this stuff, but we just have to put the translations in there now.
Yeah. Okay. We're ready to move on, Gabrielle.
That was huge, Anne. We don't want to move on too fast.
And
Need to acknowledge it.
Thank you.
Two
Thank you
years
so
it
much.
took me.
The city got a lot of labor, a lot of things that they should have been paying for that you did for them. So, just saying. All right, we will move on. Pharmacy Summit debrief.
so this is a poll. You need to get ready to stick your hands up. And how many of you, and I really need honest answers. How many have you started to watch the Pharmacy Summit in any form? Okay, well then I have to ask question number 2, which is how many got to the end? So it is a very important topic. And I realize when I send out an email that says, here's a 4-hour video you can watch, and here's the 2 most important hours, painful. So we are going to invite this lady who will give you, instead of the 2-hour version, you're going to get the 10-minute speed version. But we can dissect this and go into some deep dives, because there are some really important materials in there about the fallacies that we have been talking about when we have been messaging and what we understood the pharmacy system was. There is nobody coming to help, period. You know, we're not even going to pretend to say, take your bottle up to the pharmacy and they'll do this, because they won't. So it's really bad. And we're working with the state on a messaging campaign that says, we're not kidding people, you need to store medications. So stay tuned for that, but at least I know that I'm working with a I don't want to shortcut any of this information. I need to start from scratch with everybody. So that's the debrief, more coming soon. Welfare messaging, I get to start by saying, we've kind of reached a milestone in our welfare messaging, thanks to the hub captains who came out and helped in the test. We will be doing a training for you on that system. But Anne's going to take you into the next step of what we're going to do. Dave Wilma is on because he's going to train ACS and we're going to train the hubs, and we got to line it up so that everybody gets trained sort of close together, so we make sure and incorporate Q&A together. But for purposes of where we're going next, Anne's going to talk the next part of it.
Okay, so welfare messages, we want to make sure we're really clear with the language here. Welfare messages are messages that leave the disaster zone out of the affected area to other loved ones to let them know that you are okay. That's a welfare message. So this is your family, your friends in Florida, or your best friend in Ohio. This is the kind of person we're talking about. Don't forget, and we haven't done much with it, but there is a 12th hub volunteer. We have kind of the 9 standard ones, hub manager, greeter, information officer, all those folks. We have 9, and then we have a medical officer, a visiting nurse, and a reunification officer. And again, we haven't played much with them, but in your hub books, there is a job description for a reunification officer. So this is not a job for the hub manager. Don't be panicking. Hopefully you will have people to help with this if you choose to do it. So neighbors approaching the hub, they're going to either be, they're either going to say, I would like for you to send a message to yada, yada, and I have an email address, or I have their phone number, or I have their mailing address. So let's start with the email address person first. We're going to capture their information on paper. We give it to a radio operator. This is a ham radio operator who sends an email via WinLink Express, and poof, the system is done. That's the only, you don't have to do anything more. Take down that paper, take that information on paper and get it to the radio operator. So this is how it happens. The person walks up and says, I have an email address. And you go, great, that's the best way. That's the simplest way. They fill out a paper form. The ham operator prepares the message in something called WinLink. Doesn't matter what it is. They send an email over ham radio waves when radio traffic rhythm allows. So they're not going to disrupt, they're not going to put the fire department on hold to send this message out. So they might be sent out at night when radio traffic is low. This is what the form looks like. This is something Cindy and I created. Up here at the top, it's the person's name. So this is your neighbor's name. Who would you like to contact? This is my loved one. Let's say it's Aunt Susie, and here is her email address. And this is what I wanted to say. The kids and the cats are fine. House is a mess, blah, blah, blah. Rest of the message. We'll call you when we can. This is what your ham radio operator fills out, this form. This is the ham radio operator's license number. It's to lovedone@gmail.com. It's from Patsy. The kids and cats are fine. House is a mess, blah, blah, blah. Do not reply. They hit the buttons and poof, the email goes out. So she knows you're okay. This is basically what she gets. This is coming from Patsy. The kids and the cats are fine, blah, blah, blah. So just want to introduce the idea of another person to help. We have nicknamed them the digitizer. They're taking this information off the paper and they're typing it into a laptop and then getting it to the ham radio operator just to make their life easier. So that person might be someone you want to put in this loop. This system using email address is really good. It's very direct. There's nobody else Nobody else gets involved except this ham radio operator using WinLink and the person receiving the email. It's very fast. It goes through as soon as they send it, as soon as they press go, and it's pretty reliable. We've tested it a couple different times. It works really well. So email is super important to have. It is the best, easiest way to send out information. Now we're going to skip down to the people that have a mailing address. And we don't know how many folks there are. But, you know, the only thing let's say I'm an older person, and the only person I ever talk to is my mom in Ohio, and I don't know her phone number because it's in my phone and my phone's broke. I just have a mailing address. I don't even know who this person would be, but we capture their information on paper. Maybe we use the digitizer. We get it to a ham radio operator who sends it into this system called NTS, the National Traffic System. And the ham radio operator, several steps down the road, would either mail a postcard, or better, maybe they find a ham radio operator that lives 6 blocks away from this person, and somebody walks over and knocks on their door, or finds their phone number and calls her. So that's a possibility. So snail mail address only. It's sent into the National Traffic System. The message is forwarded until it gets to a ham radio operator near that person's address. So if that address is in Georgia, that message gets transferred on and on and on until it gets to a ham radio operator somewhere close to this person in Georgia. They mail a postcard, or better, maybe they do a little legwork. They find a phone number and call her. Maybe they drive over, who knows? Just a little bit about the National Traffic System. It was organized by hams way back in 1949 for exactly this purpose, to let folks know that those in the disaster zone, how they're doing, give them a status update. During non-disaster times, so now, the hams jump on this system and they send things like happy birthday messages, and they transfer that happy birthday message the same way they would transfer a welfare message, but they're constantly practicing. And what happens when there's a disaster is they just get together and send these messages more often. Instead of once every 3 days, maybe it's 3 times a day. I don't know exactly the rhythm, but they will step up, and this system, this National Traffic System, will work. So I'm going to stop for just a second, and I'm going to launch a poll. I want to know, so the question is, do you know the carrier? And the carrier is AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, that kind of name. Do you know the carrier of your out-of-town contact person? And that's the person outside of the disaster zone that you would want to contact to let them know that you survived the disaster. So we're just trying to get a sense of how many people know the carrier. I'm going to give you a second to do that while I read the chat. So 2 of you knew, 12 of you did not know the carrier. And everybody's out-of-town contact does have a cell phone. It's not just a home phone landline kind of thing. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that and go back to the. Can you see my slideshow? Yeah. Okay. All right. So Cindy, I'm going to pause right here and see if you, based on their responses, do you want me to go to the phone relay?
The reason why we asked is because when we originally showed this to you, we split it, you know, with the carrier known, we would go one way, and I'm going, if that's why we did the poll. If so many people don't have it, we're just going to arbitrarily say, Dave Wilma, pay attention. If you have a phone number, we're going to have to figure out another way. And so, yes, if we have time, I think we should cover it, since you did such a good job covering all the other options. Let's put it in.
Okay. So I'm going to skip these 2 I know it's a lot going on here. We are going to skip this one and we're going to skip this one. So we are not going to involve, we're going to involve a ham radio operator, but we're not going to involve the NTS system. So we're going to take a look at this bottom track. Okay. So somebody comes up to us and says, I have a phone number. We give them that piece of paper that you saw early on. They fill out the phone number, and we need to find, meaning the hub volunteers, need to find someone to act as our phone relay person. So what you're looking for is someone that, I might have jumped ahead too far. You're looking for someone out of the disaster zone that can dedicate time to this effort. So not someone with 3 small kids under the age of 7. You know, you're looking for somebody that is organized, can stay calm, you know, is maybe well connected in their community so they can ask for help if they need it. They can make free long distance calls because that's what they're going to need to do. And they have time and energy to dedicate to this. The beauty of this, the phone relay system person, is that we don't have to deal with the carrier issue, which nobody knows. So this is how you would find your phone relay person. Basically, this is a message from the ham radio operator.
At the time
It
of the
says,
disaster.
yeah, disasters happened. Your reunification officer or somebody in your hub has the bandwidth to set this up and help folks in your community send messages out. Okay. And all they have is a phone number. So the message says, as you may have heard, and this is not written in stone. This is just an example. As you may have heard, we've had a disaster here in Seattle and we have no communications. I'm sending this to you through a volunteer amateur radio operator and WinLink, which doesn't matter. We need someone to forward welfare messages from our neighbors by phone. Can you help? These messages are very important. Please let us know if you can, or if you are able to or not able to, by replying to this email. So the ham radio operator sent this email out and they're going to send back either we can or we can't. If they agree to help, the ham radio operator just sends a little bit more information about this is what we want you to do. You're going to get emails with messages sent by our neighbors reporting their safety and well-being. Please telephone the member in the email and pass along the message. Explain to the loved one that you received the message in an email from the sender's neighborhood. We can't take replies, but please keep track of the contacts you make. For example, you delivered it, you left a message, you didn't get an answer, blah, blah, blah. Thank you very much. And this is Bill, the ham radio operator that's sending this out. This is what the ham radio operator sends. They email it to outofarea.contact@gmail.com, welfare messages from Seattle. And here's the first message. It's to Molly McGuire from Patsy. Kids and cats are fine. House is a mess, blah, blah, blah. Alex Hamilton from Jim Monroe, blah, 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 blah. Thank you for your help, Seattle ACS radio operator. So that's what the ham radio operator sends out. Basically, it's an email that the person gets, your phone relay. So they have to agree to help. They have to get the email. They have to call the loved ones with the messages. If they're unable to contact or leave voicemail, they can try sending a text. And there's a way to figure out who their carrier is when you have internet access. And then keep track of what happened. You spoke to them, you left voicemail, it was a wrong number, whatever. That phone relay person can delegate the work. That's where the well-connected community member comes in. Like, holy crap, I'm being overwhelmed. You know, friends, come over and help me do this. You know, I'll print out the page of phone calls and you go into that bedroom and you start making phone calls. So they can delegate the work, or they can wave the white flag and they can just go, I can't take any more. And then the hub can find another phone relay person. Or maybe you have you know, 2 or 3 going at a time. So you've identified that phone relay person, you've worked out how it's going to work, they make the call. The benefits of this is that it's a very local effort. So you're kind of working with the ham radio operator that's making this happen. So it's less out there in the never land. And you're hoping it's being done. It feels a little bit more concrete and closer to you if you have a ham radio operator with WinLink. And also you're hoping that the person making these calls if they're not good at it to begin with, they get good at it because they are making multiple calls and they're understanding how stressed or whatever the person on the other end of the phone call is going to be. And you just would get really good at doing this if you're doing, you know, 12 calls a day or whatever. So I think that's an advantage. I'm going to stop and somebody's got questions. Yeah, go ahead, Jody.
I'm assuming these people won't be contacted until there is a disaster. And I was wondering about putting another sentence or two in that introductory blurb saying, we're hoping you can do 2 hours a day and find friends to help if there's more demand than that or something, just so they have some idea of the extent of what is being asked.
Sure. Yeah. We can make suggestions on, you know, don't kill yourself and, you know, call in reinforcements if you need to. That's a good idea. We can wordsmith that outgoing message. Thanks.
Yeah, and don't forget,
Anybody else?
this is a personal message from Anne to the loved one. So Anne is going to have everything to say about what goes into the message. So it'll be very, very personal. Okay, this is how I think I need to communicate with my aunt. And so remember that. That's just a guideline.
Yeah, that's not a canned message. That's not written down anywhere. You know, you're going to make that up on the fly. We'll give you an example, but you definitely, you know, make it how you want it. And you can contact people ahead of time and ask them if they'd be willing to do this. We just, you know, nobody knows what somebody's situation is going to be after we have a disaster. They might be in the middle of a divorce or on vacation in the Bahamas or, you know, who knows. So you can certainly think of people and talk to them ahead of time, but it really would be finding the right person after the disaster. I think that's the most reasonable approach.
So
Any other?
yeah, I just want to summarize that. So we know how email is going to go out. We know how landline is going to go out. You take the ham radio operator and they send it to the loved ones directly. This phone relay won't happen unless someone at your hub says, if we have these little slips of paper filled out and they only have a phone number, we give it to the ham radio operator to go to this person out there to pass on. And if you don't have this person out there, they won't go out. We end up having to go back and go, okay, we're going to have to use the NTS system. So there is a backup, but what Ann just described won't happen unless your hub establishes that phone relay person out there somewhere.
I just want to add a real quick comment here. I got to drop off soon, but I would also recommend that if you are to tell people that when they're going to want to contact loved ones outside of the area for this, to let them know that they might get a message in the event of a disaster from a number that they don't recognize. Pretty much, I'll tell you, pretty much anybody under the age of 45 will not answer their phone for a number that is not in their contact list. So just a heads up on that. You got to remember, certain people are just trained. They will not take phone numbers or calls from phones for numbers that are not in their contact list.
So, and another
Gabrielle
would be to encourage us and everyone else to put an email for our out of contact person into our phone number, because yes, some people are going to lose and break their phones, but most people are still going to have their phone and might be able to squeak out a little bit of battery life to be able to contact somebody. So, because that is a very complex description you and Cindy went through, just as you were describing it, Cindy. And there's a lot of points for breakdown there that I could just see. So, yeah. But it's great we have the ability to do that, but it's got to be all set up. Yeah.
Yeah. This
So-
really highlighted to me the need to write down email addresses. It is the simplest way, the fastest, the simplest way. And I don't know my out of town contact. I have her phone number written down on my little 3x5 cards, but I don't have her email address written down. I am so going to write it down.
What we don't know is, so I see Jody and Susie, but what we don't know is at any given hub, how many people are only going to have phone numbers, and will you be sending 70 messages out or 7,000 messages out? So, it's just like we're scratching our heads thinking about this. So Jody, and then I think Susie.
Could you do Susie first? Because the brain cells were doing something else and skipped the frame.
Okay, Susie?
I'm just thinking this is a great education opportunity for go bags, for instance. Yeah.
Jody.
I have a solar thing that will charge my phone. And I'm thinking that it might be a good idea to let people on the mailing list know that those things, I mean, it does other things too, but it will also charge my phone. It might be good to get it out on the mailing list that these things exist, and so people could find them and get them.
That's why it's going out after Thanksgiving, is because I'm trying to hit the Christmas gift list.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Catherine?
That's great. Yeah, the Christmas gift. I need to do that. So make your list for me. So this is really, really excellent, and I can see the situation where people do need to communicate with loved ones, and it's wonderful. We don't have ham radio, so that puts a whole other wrinkle in things. And I would kind of think that maybe if there's going to be 7,000 people needing to contact loved ones, maybe more effective would be a band of solar chargers, and people have a limited time, but people could get enough juice.
No. This is
It's not
before cells come back. We don't have cell
Yeah, the internet's
communications.
down.
Oh.
Yeah, if you can get a message out on your own cell phone, we're not doing it for you. Yeah.
That's why we have to use the ham radio operator to contact the phone relay person out of state.
So we need to figure, okay, but I think it's a good thing to consider some solar equipment in general and sharing.
We're gonna talk about electricity.
Yeah, that's separate.
We've got a deep dive coming up on electricity and how to charge our stuff sometime early in the new year.
Okay, so the one thing, once the details are more worked out, or ham operations are worked out, what about hubs that don't have ham? Is there anything, options for us, or do we send
Catherine,
people?
I will reach out to you offline and talk to you about a ham huddle. That's how you find your ham radio operators in your community.
Thank you.
Yep. And then the secondary is we have talked with ACS about some hubs we know won't have hams, maybe not for the first 4 days. And so gather up the paper, and how do we direct that hub to deliver it to the nearest ham radio operator? So that's a responsibility of the hub network.
Fantastic.
Were you thinking about providing charging at the hub for people who come from the public who just have a dead phone or something?
Well, they still can't use the phone to call, but if they need to light up the phone so they can get the email, which is highly likely, yes. And that's why Ann and I have a meeting with Seattle City Light coming up. So just hold off on the how to power stuff questions.
Okay, should we move on to the next item, which is on reunification work?
No, that was it.
Yep.
Oh, we're
That
not.
was the reunification work. Okay, we
Oh,
did
no,
the
no,
welfare.
no, I was wrong. I was wrong.
Yeah. So this is my proposal and I need your help on this, guys. I would like for folks to get with me to figure out fundraising options. I wrote Ann Bond and Matt Blank for that one. Reunification. This is a different process. So we're just talking about welfare messages. This reunification is the next piece of this. And this is very Seattle centric. It is helping folks find loved ones here on the ground. It is making sure parents and kids are getting back together and partners are finding each other. And yeah, so it's both people are in the disaster zone, and what can we do as hubs to help them reunite? So that's reunification, which is different than welfare messages. So is anyone interested in starting down that path of how can the hubs and ham radio help not necessarily reunite them, but at least let everybody know that, they're okay and we're going to meet up somewhere. And I cannot see your hand, so speak up if anybody's interested in working on reunification.
This is Gabrielle, I'd be willing to take a crack at that with you, and if you don't get somebody else who's more interested.
Okay. And it's really just talking through it. What would this look like? I don't have any ideas. I mean, I have ideas, but
Well,
okay.
It could also involve the phone call thing, because part of the thing is if you're separated, you call the person out of state who serves as a potential meetup also.
Yes, that may be a piece of it. We
Yeah.
certainly would guide them to do that first.
If
Sending a text to an out-of-town contact. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I could do
All right.
that.
Who's that? I can't see.
Susan,
Oh, good.
happy
Thanks,
to
Susan.
happy
Okay.
to join you. Yeah.
Excellent. I need some good brains on this one.
Are you
Okay. And
And when are you going to start these areas of work in the new year?
I would like to meet sooner than that.
Well, it's holiday season.
Yeah, I know.
There's a core team of 5 people at Homer Harris, and I want to twist some arms for someone to get involved in the fundraising options or even do it for our hub. And supporting schools, we do have a parent who does have a child in Seattle Public Schools. So I don't know, but there may be interest there.
Okay, Catherine, hold that thought. Let me talk about this third work group. So, and I will try and be fast because I know this has been a long meeting. Cindy and I were kind of on the phone while Ingram High School was going through their incident the other day. Ingram High School is actually a high school that some of the kids in my neighborhood go to. We have a more local high school, but some kids here go to Ingram High School. So I was very concerned and very engaged when I heard about it. What Cindy and I saw, and I'm assuming most of you saw it too, was a bunch of parents standing outside the school not knowing what to do. What they were waiting for to have happen was the school's reunification plan to kick in and get started, where one adult and one child are hooked together, they're paired up, and they leave the building. Because schools go into lockdown after an incident like that, whether it's a fire in the building or heaven forbid, a shooting, a gas leak, anything like that. They're going to sequester the kids someplace safe, and they're going to pair them up with adults one by one. It's very slow, very methodical, and very anxiety producing. In this instance, there was the criminal investigation and the interviewing of all these kids and teachers and all that kind of stuff before they could start letting the kids go. So it really took a very long time. We saw parents standing outside. Thank God it was a beautiful day, but what if it had been pouring rain? These parents are just standing outside. They're not allowed in the building. And then when they brought out the tables to do the reunification, they're out in the open. There's no canopies there. It just, on a different weather kind of day, it would have been a total nightmare. It would have been much more difficult for everybody involved. So I'm looking at that situation going, I've got access to 6 canopies and a lot of tables and, you know, clipboards and pens and, you know, and I think about how to support people that are stressed. What a great / horrible chance for hub captains to do some good for their communities. If my local high school, Nathan Hale High School, had, heaven forbid, an active shooter kind of incident, I would like to be available. I would like to take my car, go over to the hub, load up the canopies, load up my bullhorn. That was the other thing that the school did not have. They had one, but it didn't work. So trying to organize was next to impossible. So I would grab my bullhorn. I would grab the tables I have in there, the clipboards, the pens, name tags, whatever else I could think of. I would throw it in the back of my car and I would drive over there and see if I couldn't make myself useful to the principal or the safety officer, whoever's in charge, and just go, look, I don't want to get involved in your process, but I have gear and I can help. So if there's anybody interested in exploring this idea of, if your community had an event like this, would you want to get involved? And how would we build that relationship ahead of time? Because they're not going to let me pass the, you know, the caution tape or whatever. They're not going to let me in after the event has already happened. But if I established a relationship before, maybe I could help. And again, I think it's fabulous practice for hub volunteers to manage a large group of stressed, anxious people. So I'm going to stop sharing and just ask if anybody's interested in working on that. Okay, Susie, is that your hand up or do you have a question?
It is.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Susie. And I see Jody. And Hugh, you're interested? Excellent. Wow, thanks, guys. Now I know how to get you.
And
I
then
got to do
someone
the
from Catherine's
emotional.
group. Someone from Catherine's group.
Okay. Okay. Excellent.
Just a
Okay, I will.
Actually, if you would repeat what you said in an email, I would want to send it to Karen.
Okay.
Or you could directly, you know, Karen, she was
I can send out an email to the hubcaps for all 3 of these new work groups.
because then you
Okay.
said it so beautifully, and I'm really hoping some I mean, parents who actually know what to do are also incredibly valuable.
Yes, yes. And somebody else was talking right when Catherine started. Go ahead, Susie.
I just had a conversation with the pastor at the church where our hub is located, and being the church, they have to have, and they would do the interfacing with the nearby school. They have to have background checks. And so one of the things we were going to ask of our hub team was anyone who would volunteer to have a background check done so that they can be automatically invited to participate in a reunification. So just maybe
Not a bad idea. That's a step further than I was thinking, but I like that idea.
I'm working with our Gatewood Elementary School, and it was really around during a disaster, helping at the school with reunification. But now I'm meeting with the PTA to say, okay, just like Ann said, if this happened in real world before a disaster, you know, as an incident as opposed to a disaster, they had said we wanted trusted people that they had been introduced to before ahead of time. So that might be a midway to look at it, not go with the full background check, but at least they've got the list of the 6 most likely people to show up as aides from the volunteer or from the hub.
Right. The school will have its criteria, and the church has, for insurance purposes, this bar of having a background check. So it was the church background check, not the school.
Got it. Frank had his hand up.
Yeah,
ahead,
I'm unmuted, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Yeah, why don't you put me on that list? I used to teach high school, and the person who brought up the background check or whatever before, it's slightly less than imperative that that be done and that you know each other before, because you really need to have all that stuff on the ground. So when you walk in, the vice principal and principal know who you are. They've met with you. You have a relationship with them, because it's going to be too freaking frenetic to build it up in 2 minutes when you walk in. Well intended,
Right.
but yeah. So stick me on it. I'd be interested.
Absolutely. Jody, you got something to say?
It might not just be a school, it might be a grocery store or some other place. So we need to think of it more generically than just schools.
No other places does a reunification process, which is
Yeah.
specifically what we're trying to help in. But Jody, your example is exactly what happened at Greenwood when the building exploded. They had that gas explosion. And
Right.
absolutely, we were talking with the Greenwood folks at the time, and before they could show up, because that was what their intention was, the business district stood up a kind of response center. And so the hub people just went and helped at that.
Okay, but I think that that hubs should be prepared for that opportunity also.
Yes, they can. Yes.
All right. That's it for me, Gabrielle. I've done enough talking.
Okay. P-patch locations, we skipped over that. Cindy, do you want to talk about that?
Yep, that's just really super quick. We did finally get the Office of Emergency Management and the P-patch program and the hubs all together in one room to talk about the appropriateness of having designated every single P-patch in the city as a hub. So they've agreed that easily we should go through and remove the tiny little P-patches, or the ones that don't have room to set a hub location, or the ones that are under 100,000 watt power lines. So we have about 20 hubs that are going to come off the map because they just were not appropriate to start with. So that is a fantastic first start. And so that we can still say to people when we outreach, you know, we have active hubs, and then we have other hubs and locations, but they're P patches that are big enough to accept people showing up and saying, here we are, how can we help? So just a heads up that the map is going to change a little bit, and our number of hubs is going to change, but all for the good.
Great.
That's good. The map is very busy, and the number of hubs on the map versus the number of people I see in these calls is very different.
Yeah.
But they watch the video. I do check that.
Good.
So the last thing we have is around the room, unless someone has an item that wouldn't be appropriate for around the room. I'm guessing no. Okay, so we'll dive into the around the room. We'll start in the Northwest, because that's where we often start. Anyone from the Northwest would like to share an update?
Oh, wait, I got an important one that I completely forgot to put on.
Okay.
The fire exercise. Jeez, I can't believe I forgot this. I did not get a single volunteer saying that they would come. So I am trying to read that. I'm going, is that because nobody really is interested in the fire department windshield exercise? Or is that because everybody assumed the spots would be taken so fast they didn't bother? But this, I have to send that guy my answer tonight. If anybody is going to participate, Anne is going to go on Saturday, so she can actually see how this works. You've heard me describe it. We can send out pitches. If you really don't have a desire to go see how this works, it's not a problem. But I just wanted to make sure I made one last in-person check if anybody is interested and was hesitating.
It was the short notice that was problematic for me.
Tell me about
Yeah.
it. Yes.
Yeah, and what was the time commitment again? It's just, is it
10
just
to
a couple hours?
12 on either Saturday or Sunday.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can do that
Which day, Matt?
Which day?
either day.
Then if you're
Probably.
the only one, and I'm going to put him in with you on Saturday, which I can't do, but there's
Sounds
no
great.
point in me going down on Sunday again if nobody else is going to be there.
Okay.
And which station is it?
Downtown location. We'll send you the
Okay.
information, but it's
Where the
downtown
EOC is?
at the OEM.
Okay. Yeah. been there.
Excellent. All right, last chance.
And can I take photos and video there too? I hope.
You can take photos, but I would not count on videos.
Okay.
And I'll send you the link to the presentation beforehand. Okay, thanks. Sorry about that.
No problem. All right, we'll start in the Northwest area again. Is there anybody from there that would like to share anything in our around the room announcements?
The only thing I have is when the meeting concludes, could Cindy and Ann stay on and three of us just chat briefly?
How about Northeast?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I thought that I should share about Discord with a larger group, so I wasn't sure, ready to push this, but I had set up Slack a while ago, probably maybe 2 years ago even. Hasn't been used a lot, but I just noticed that Slack had recently changed their licensing so that free versions, instead of a certain amount of messages, which we were under, they start truncating based on date. And most of the messages that we had were past that date. So I figured it's just not worth continuing with that. I set up a Discord service, which is another free to use one, but it's more geared toward personal use, clubs, friends, gaming, and stuff like that. It's not a free version of a business offering. It's a free product that has like a premium tier, but it should be a little bit more conducive to what we're doing. It also allows video conferencing, screen sharing. It has a lot of the same features as Slack, but I just wanted to create that and get that out there in case people want another method to stay in touch.
Cindy?
Yes.
Question for Matt. So all the people who signed up for Slack, did you send them a message saying this channel's being discontinued?
I didn't, and it's not really discontinued. It's just it kind of hasn't been used very much. I did send a message in the Slack, and a couple of people have joined the Discord already. But yeah, it's not something I was pushing hard. I was trying to figure out a couple of things. One is I wanted to set up automation so that any Alert Seattle messages get posted in one of the channels.
Okay, well, you're way ahead of me. I'm still back on. I have a Slack, and I only got a Slack account because of the Hub stuff, and you're telling me we're not going to use it anymore. And what I thought you said was it has been turned off, like it got erased because there's not been
Deactivated.
Okay, well, the messages are inaccessible.
But we're not going to use it actively anymore. That's what we need to tell Hub captains, because I might have gone, I need to send a Slack message out because this is a technical issue.
Yeah, I think so, and I can broadcast it more widely if people agree that that's kind of the right way to go. I mean, it's still usable. I just feel like it's less useful because it won't show any messages that are more than 3 months old. And
I'm trying to be a young person. It's not working well.
Sorry.
So it sounds like
I do have Discord already, so at least I feel a little ahead.
So if you have Discord,
Discord
jump on there and try it out.
Yeah, it sounds like Matt's issue is that it's not saving old messages for us. So if we were using it for shorter term communication, it would be fine.
Yeah, but we'd have to pay to go access our archives.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess, Matt, if you would send that out in an email to the Hub captains for everybody who's not on tonight with instructions on how to join.
All right, I will try that.
Because
all right, so I'm also, are you done, Cindy? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Okay, I'm also in Northeast, so I don't have anything to share right now. So let's see, Central Core, is that where we go next?
Okay, North Capitol Hill, we're the prioritized emergency prep list that has come through Ann, et cetera, has been so successful as something to offer people that we've been also looking at a budget. We call it the PEP, so a budget PEP. And we had a great presentation about that last week, and I'm just writing it up. And when we're done, we'll share it. 14% of Capitol Hill's population is under the poverty line, so we figured this was a useful tool.
Anyone else in that area?
I'm going to add in that Susie's group has got some interest in the building inspection stuff again, the ATC 20 post-earthquake damage inspections. And so we're firing back up that old project to help get information out to the folks interested there.
How about Queen Anne Magnolia?
Okay, this is Bill from Queen Anne. The one news is the Queen Anne Farmers Market does harvest markets during the winter. And there's one coming up this Saturday. So from Saturday from 10 to 3, I will be there standing behind the Queen Anne Community Council table promoting emergency preparedness education. So this isn't necessarily a hub thing, but of course, promoting hubs and talking about them is all part of it. It's more of a support of the Public Safety Committee of the Queen Anne Community Council, but it is still FaceTime with my community. So that's what I'll be doing this Saturday. That's it. Frank, have you got anything more to add from Magnolia?
Oh, you're mute.
You're muted, Frank.
Okay, I'll try to do better. Pam Courtnage and I in Magnolia here are looking at doing a radio test along Perkins Lane, because one of the people who came to our Summerfest had some concerns about communication after an event, because that road's at the bottom of a slide. So Pam's gotten some BTEC V2s. Once we get them programmed, we're going to run some tests down there to see just what the communication is like there on GMRS, and also if we can hit the West Seattle repeater. So that's what we're looking at here. And I run the GMRS Monday night check-in net, and I got 3 new people, all from Capitol Hill. And I was going to ask Susie if Madeline, Miles, or Noah, do any of those people ring bells as members of your hub up there?
Miles and Noah, definitely. They are leading the effort with radio here.
Well, congratulate them and tell them I like to hear them, check in every Monday night. We hit different repeaters and just to see what their ratings are.
Great. Thank you very much. I'll pass that along.
Yeah, thank them. It was good to hear new people, new blood.
Great. Okay, Cindy, what's the next area? If I'm going south from the
Southeast
central
and southwest. So southeast.
Southeast. All right. Anybody in southeast want to share an update?
Wait, did we also Central Core for Ann Bond and Eastlake?
I did say Central Core. Anybody else for Central Core? No? Okay, we'll switch over to Eastlake. Or not Eastlake, Southeast.
I don't know if you meant Eastlake, so this is Anne with Eastlake. I don't really have anything to share. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else in the Southeast area?
Susan. My mental geography is kind of slow today here.
No, you're right, but no, I don't have anything to share.
Okay. Dave?
Yeah, for Seattle ACS.
We're Southwest and then ACS. Good try, Dave.
Okay. All right, Southwest.
So Johnny's on. So I wanted to make sure, unless he just dropped. Oh my
I think
God.
he might have just dropped off.
Okay. They're going to do a booth at High Point for the hub. They've been invited there. That hub is now invited as a standing thing to all their community events up at High Point. So that's been a fantastic partnership that's been formed. And then for the West Seattle hubs, we're going to do another radio exercise on that welfare messaging for the West Seattle Radio Club and the Highline group. So when that is set up, probably in January, February, we'll invite all the hub captains who want to come just watch, because the exercise is around watching ham radio operators set up and try to run WinLink. And it's, you'll get being able to watch that, you'll get a good sense of how actually complicated it is and worth going for. Johnny, you're back on. Oh, Johnny's back on. I'll stall. I'll do one more thing. I talked about the Morgan is connecting with the Gatewood Elementary, so I'll keep you guys informed on how that develops. Johnny, do you want to give a report out?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry,
yes.
I got disconnected. I was trying to fix my background, but anyway, Yeah, we have a winter festival coming up on December 2nd at High Point. If anyone wants to come out, we should have a table there. I plan to be there. Yeah, that's what we've got going on right now.
Okay, great. I'm gonna have Dave next, and then we'll have
I
one
wasn't
last.
done. I was sorry. I was
Oh,
just letting Johnny
Cindy's
in.
not done. Okay, Cindy.
So the other part that goes along with Gatewood Elementary is because we're prioritizing them based on that building damage assessment on our 2 vulnerable places. And the other one is the Kenny Senior Home. And I finally got to the guy there, and he's been teaching the residents disaster preparedness. And so again, I'm going to go down as a hub captain and go, what can we do as a hub after a disaster? Do you know what your priority needs would be? So I'll let you know what we find out from a senior care facility on typical tasks that you might be expected to help send volunteers down to help at. So those were 2 really big things for us here in Morgan. So Dave, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to get that out.
Hi, this is Dave. Some takeaways I can offer you from Hurricane Ian. I've been doing an analysis of ham radio volunteers at Ian. Number 1 is they never had enough ham radio volunteers. So if you get a hub ham that you can claim as your own, hang on to them, lock them in the basement, whatever you have to do, because there are not going to be enough hams to go around in a disaster. That said, they learned that hams at home can be a great service, serving as net controls and relays. And this is where they have their radio stations and their power supplies, and more use can be used of communications at home. So even though they're not at your hub location, if there's someone nearby, you can probably make some use of emergency communications that way. And lastly, what they ended up doing is radio nets that serve the same purpose as the communications hubs. That is, they would stay on the air 12 hours a day and exchange information on who's got gas, what pharmacies were open, that sort of thing. So think in terms of using your communications, whether it's GMRS or ham radio or SneakerNet, as a way of communicating between the hubs and sharing information. And this was very organized, very organic at Ian between subdivisions and that sort of thing. And the last thing I can say is that despite all of the hurricanes that they've had and all the warning they had, is that people were still terribly unprepared for what happened.
Do you guys remember if I sent you the link to the ACS video presentation that Dave did? I have a feeling I got partway through that and got stymied. Okay, I owe that to you all.
List.
Yeah, I owe that. Say again, Matt.
I saw the document with the notes, like the highlights, but not a presentation.
Okay, but you saw that through the ACS group?
No, that was sent to HubCaps.
Okay. I will double check.
Send an email with bullet points of that information, but not a video.
Okay, then that's what happened is they sent me a link that you can't get to because it's on their Google Drive, and I was working the permissions problem. So I'll make sure and get that out to you, because he gave you just like the 7-second top notes. It was a fascinating presentation all the way around. So I'll get that out to everybody.
All right, last call. If anyone has anything they'd like to share. No? All right, then everyone, our next meeting is January 26th, 7 o'clock is our next hub meeting. Don't worry, Cindy, I'm going to talk about your party. And our next deep dive is February 23rd. I'm looking here on the agenda and I'm seeing, I don't think I changed the date, Anne, even after I asked you about the correct date for Cindy's party. So Cindy, your event is on Saturday, December 10th. Is that correct? Okay, so people, if you look at your agenda for today, it has the wrong date for the party that Cindy invited us to. The email that she sent out has the correct date, but this agenda has the wrong date. It says Monday. It is not a party on a Monday. It's a party on a Saturday, December 10th. Yeah.
And I'll probably
yeah.
send a reminder out.
And she'll
it
probably
really is
send
fun.
her up.
It's
Okay.
so nice to get back together again.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I already said January 26th, HubCap's February 23rd, deep dive. All right, everyone, that was a great meeting. Lots of information from Ann and Cindy. Congratulations again, Ann, on your big grant accomplishment. Yay.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night, everyone.